I hope you folks have stonks in The Fugitive Doctor, because with Circuit Breaker next year and The Fugitive Doctor for Big Finish this year, her stonks are going massively up. Back in January, Big Finish released the first box set, which takes place in the Chibnall era of Doctor Who. Or I should say they released multiple box sets because there was also a Lupari story in the Classic Doctors, New Monsters box set story. A really good Lupari story with the Fourth Doctor. But The Fugitive Doctor Most Wanted came out in January 2025, and this takes place while the Doctor she's done missions for the CIA, the Celestial Intervention Agency and Division or whatever, and now she is on the run from the Time Lords, and you have Alex Krieg playing another Time Lord who is hunting her down. This Time Lord is called Cosmogon, or Cosmo for short, as the Doctor, played by Jo Martin, likes to call her. We had a trilogy of strong stories, with The Legend of Baba Yaga by Roshana Patel being the obvious standout, in my opinion. Back in July, we got the release of the follow-up, The Fugitive Doctor, Dead or Alive, and this seeks to continue the relationship or the rivalry between Cosmogon and the Fugitive Doctor, with a trilogy of more stories, with Flying Solo by Tajinder Heya, The Junkyard Loop by Aaron Douglas, and Hereafter by Tim Foley. Tajinder Heya and Aaron Douglas, this is their debut writing Big Finish Doctor-centric stories. So Dead or Alive, the main thing I wanted from this box set was to establish Cosmogon as a stronger character, a much better antagonist for the Fugitive Doctor. Because while she has a lot to do in terms of just like a presence, she has a lot of dialogue in the Most Wanted box set, she's basically just a bit of a damp squib of a character in this box set. She just serves to just get undercut by the Fugitive Doctor at every opportunity, and it kind of makes you wonder, why did the Time Lords send somebody so useless to take down this fugitive who has had her memories erased and she doesn't know exactly what she's running from? She just knows that she has to run very fast. What made Most Wanted a really strong box set, outside of the Legend of Baba Yaga release, is that Jo Martin gave such a powerful and assured, confident performance as the Fugitive Doctor. That's what made it a worthwhile listen. The Daleks were just sort of randomly here. Dead or Alive, I will say, thankfully, does build upon the Doctor and Cosmogon dynamic that was alluded to in the first box set. It takes a few stories for that to kick in, but Flying Solo by Tajinder Heya is a really strong start. So Flying Solo takes place in the Second World War. You've got pilot officer Mahinder Singh Johal, who is an RAF pilot during World War II, and they're flying above London trying to combat the Blitz, and his Spitfire vanishes, and he goes through a big time cloud because the Doctor is hit with a time disruptor by Cosmogon, and the TARDIS starts leaking chronon particles, and Mahinder gets caught up in the whole thing, and his Spitfire ends up going back in time to specific moments of not just his personal life, but also these key events in India that made him the radical political activist that he is in the present day. Joel Hal here, played by Raj Ghatak, and he's an Indian nationalist. He is looked down upon by people in the RAF, and he uses this opportunity, or he hopes to use this opportunity, to figure out a way to change India's history from his Spitfire. All the while, the Doctor is in pursuit, trying to stop him and make sure that he doesn't change history. Let's play a clip from Flying Solo.
We can't fight, can't see.
Red 3? Johal, do you read? Over.
You should listen to your pilot, Commander.
Who is this? How are you on this line of communication?
I was just politely staggering my way through the universe when a gang of chucked-up flyboys decided to shoot me out the sky.
I can assure you, madam, that I don't know what you mean.
Is this how you welcome everyone to Britain?
If their intentions are to... Do you mean to tell me that you are speaking from within that cloud?
Oh, right. Let me introduce myself. We've seen better days, though.
Blue box. Blue police box. Squadron, stand down.
Can you confirm, sir?
I said disengage. Over.
I don't understand, over.
You don't need to. Just know that I have orders that come from the very top, the Prime Minister himself. I am invoking the Blue Box Protocol. Over.
Oh, you're making me feel like a VIP.
We will disengage and leave. I suggest that you two go back to where you came from.
Well, that lasted about 5 seconds. Happy flying to you too.
Gather on me, Squadron. We may have to return to base.
Red 3 is missing, sir. Over.
Johal? Anyone see what happened to him? Over.
He went into that swirl surrounding the police box, sir. Didn't will she have come out?
So Flying Solo is a story that I enjoyed. I just wish I enjoyed it a lot more. I think the fundamentals are there. It's a really strong concept that Mahinda goes into this chronon particle storm cloud and basically is given the opportunity to forge the India that he thinks India should be through these pivotal moments in India's history. Like you've got the Battle of Plassey, you've got the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, all of these pivotal moments that politically and historically informed him into the nationalist that he is, and he wants to try and make India better and be less colonized. And I think that's a really interesting idea. The problem here is that I think that Flying Solo, while an entertaining and engaging hour of Doctor Who audio, it prioritizes momentum over the character work. I think that Flying Solo has a really strong pace where it's able to nip from time period to time period, and the Fugitive Doctor has these encounters with historical figures like Robert Clive and Alexander the Great, has these really fun scenes and moments with these characters played by John Dorney, funnily enough. I think if Flying Solo had stuck to just one time, one place, kind of similar to like Demons of the Punjab, where it's like, this is the one event, this is the one historical time period. I think if it had done that, it could have been more fleshed out, because Flying Solo has to essentially stop the plot every so often to explain what this time period is, what happened, who is involved, and then by the time we've got our heads around that, if you don't know your history of India and British colonialism and the East India Trading Company, if you don't know that, then you're sort of, you're sort of at a loss here. It has to establish all of that, and then whoop, we're going back further, we're going to a different time period, we're going to a different area of India. I think because it's trying to do so much, a lot of the character work really gets lost in the shuffle, which is a shame, because I think that having this character who wants to change history and the Fugitive Doctor is trying to stop him and uphold the web of time, and also the idea that the Fugitive Doctor is meant to be a mirror to Mahinda, because she is also somebody flying away trying to break away from the colonial chains of the people that she's running away from. I think that's a really interesting idea, and I think the closing scenes of Flying Solo really do pay off for that dynamic. But to get to that dynamic, it's just a lot of busy work. And like I said, I think it's a strong story. I just wish I liked it more. Because with Tajinder Heya writing this story, first time writing a Doctor story for Big Finish, it's clearly a subject matter that they care a lot about. It's clearly something that they're really invested in. And that passion and that love really does come across when listening to the story. I just think if it had just shown a little bit more restraint in terms of the setting, in terms of the time period, we could have had something really special here. The passion shines through. I just think it's buried beneath the need to keep the momentum and the pacing of the story going. I kind of think that maybe, I could be completely off base here. Maybe they felt that the character work wasn't quite strong enough to sustain the hour-long story, and that they needed to have this time-hopping element to it. That's the only conclusion that I can really come to. I liked Flying Solo, but I wish I loved it. The second story is The Junkyard Loop. This is from Aaron Douglas. The Doctor is being pursued by Cosmogon, and lands in an off-grid junk planet, which has been littered with the remains of Time Lord technology and people who have basically hit a spiky rock in the time vortex and run aground here. And here, they've found Sedalis, who is played by Charlotte Palmer. Now, Sedalis is a friend of the Fugitive Doctor before she got her memories erased, somebody who was part of her missions with Division. And Sedalis is saying, why didn't you come back for me? Why is it taking you so long for you to receive my hypercube, which I sent out into the universe, which we can see on the front cover here? However, Cosmo also follows the Fugitive Doctor to this junkyard world, which has some parallels to the Doctor's, finding the TARDIS, the police box in the Totters Lane junkyard back in 1963. However, Cosmo ends up getting help from another member of Division, who is also trying to collect the Doctor's bounty, Commander Zetorius, who is another complete wrong'un. It's up to the Doctor and Sedalis to somehow escape this junk world, and they have to fight their way through these time frost parasites, which are able to latch onto you and fix you into a certain moment in your time and feed off of the energy of that. Let's play a clip from The Junkyard Loop.
I got your hypercube.
My hypercube? That signal has been looping for years. I never thought anyone would actually ever find it. Doctor, is it really you?
Of course it is.
This isn't some parasite trick.
Parasite? What do you mean?
Tell me, back in the old days, what was my favourite flavour of ice cream and where did it come from?
Gapolian Nazari from the Cornelia sector. 1993 of the Vermilion System 22. The last time we had it, you were sick for weeks.
That's because the vendor tampered with it. I told you just to pay full price.
They were ripping us off.
So it really is you.
It really is.
I almost didn't recognise your TARDIS. I thought I'd been caught by one of those things.
What things?
You know, I don't think I've ever seen a TARDIS flown so badly. Given it's designed for 6 pilots, you're a few short.
I'm the only one these days.
The only one? Why?
That's a long story.
A long story. Do you have any idea what it's been like here? Stuck? Alone? Waiting for you?
I'm sorry, but I don't understand. How did you end up here?
Much like Flying Solo, I thought that the Junkyard Loop was a solid story. I thought it was well paced. It's hard to get away from it being a little bit of a action-packed runaround where, you know, the Time Frost parasites are basically here for the characters to, you know, get equipped with weapons and then start shooting at them in between dialogue sequences. I think what kind of salvages it are the antagonistic forces in the story, where you've got Commander Sartorius played by Alexander Vlahos, who is just clearly having a ball and chewing the scenery here with this really unhinged member of Division, who is just absolutely desperate to get a hold of the Doctor, not necessarily to bring them back to Time Lord Society to press charges and put them on trial, but because he wants to know what she knows and wants to know about her memories and what she's forgotten and why her memories were taken away from her. And I think there's a really fun performance aspect there. And also, I do think that Sedalis is really well played by Charlotte Palmer. I just wish that they lent more into the pseudo camaraderie between the two. The problem is that because Sedalis is so far removed from that relationship with the Doctor from Division years ago, and the Doctor doesn't really remember much about it, it means that they're leaving a lot of character work on the table here. I think if this is a story that gets followed up on in future installments where we do learn more about the fugitive Doctor's past and maybe we do have a reunion with Sedalis or a prequel with Sedalis, then maybe it works better in retrospect. But, you know, the Junkyard Loop is fine. It's just a bit of a runaround. It just kind of feels like a bit of a narrative dead end without establishing more about the future of the fugitive Doctor or the past of the fugitive Doctor. It kind of feels like an opening chapter to a side branch of the fugitive Doctor's story, which is valid. I'm just wondering if these threads will ever get picked up on again. Now, Dead or Alive does throw a few mystery boxes in here, one of them being the man in the grey suit, who is part of the fugitive Doctor's memories. That could be built up upon later on. Thankfully, what I loved about the Junkyard Loop, though, at the end, however, is that we finally get a true confirmation on the fugitive Doctor and Cosmogon's dynamic and relationship with each other. Now, the main brunt of the Junkyard Loop itself, I could sort of take or leave it, but the final few minutes of the episode with the fugitive Doctor and Cosmogon, the dynamic finally clicked. It's Les Miserables. It's Jean Valjean and Javert. That's the dynamic they're going for here, where you've got Javert / Cosmogon ruthlessly pursuing the innocent Doctor / Jean Valjean through principle, and as a symbolic way to cling on to the order and the authority that Time Lord Society once had and has fallen away through time. And now that I know that that's what they're going for the Doctor and Cosmogon, it means that Hereafter by Tim Foley can really pick up on that dynamic and really run with it. So Cosmo has finally captured the Doctor. They've landed on this world where their TARDISes have been grounded by this psychic field. So in order to escape the planet, the Doctor and Cosmogon have to work together to figure out what is causing this psychic field. They find this little village, which is preparing a festival to honour their queen in the mountain, and they surmise that the mountain is where the psychic field is coming from. Cosmogon gets captured, and the Doctor has to decide whether or not to go and help her or try and figure out what's happening in the mountain mountain on her own and use that information to leave. And what we learn is that there be vampires in that mountain. Let's play a quick clip from Hereafter.
Hey, what's up?
You hear that?
Just the rain now. What was it? A howl?
A howl?
I keep seeing it in the trees.
Seeing what?
Like a big black dog, maybe a wolf. It's stalking us.
Are you sure?
I know when I'm being hunted, even when they're a lot more subtle than you. Behind you!
I'm not falling for the oldest trick in the book.
And I'm not using it.
Oh,
You saw it.
for a moment. Its eyes.
Do you have a staser with you? Of course you keep it handy. You sure you want to keep bringing up the rear?
We can walk side by side for a bit.
How civilized.
Maybe it isn't interested in us.
Why wouldn't it be? I'm fascinating. And so are you, I reckon.
What do you mean?
How much further?
Quite a bit.
All right, we'll need to make camp again. There's a river nearby. We should see if we can drink from that.
Wait. Now you can definitely hear that.
Obviously.
Don't run ahead! Doctor!
I think Hereafter is the standout story of the box set, and I think that for multiple reasons. I love the use of the vampires and the vampire mythos in the story and how they relate to Time Lord society. If you also compare it to The Legend of the Baba Yaga, written by Roshana Patel from the last box set, I like this theme of the fugitive Doctor sort of being almost like an outcome of the dark times of Time Lord society, and as a result of that she has to sort of deal with these holdover threats from the dark times, like Baba Yaga, like the vampires in this story. It also kind of makes sense with Tim Foley's recent scripts, like The First Forest from the 8th Doctor Time War Pursuit box set, or the 5th Doctor Hooklight 12-part epic that he did earlier this year, that he's expanding on Time Lord lore and Time Lord myths, and I think that this is clearly where Tim Foley's mind has been at this year. I like the theme of the fugitive Doctor facing off against these more mystic, timeless threats. But one aspect that I didn't expect going into Hereafter was how much we learn about Cosmo and her past, which is presented through some parallel flashbacks over the course of the episode, where she's looking after her father, Astrobar, played by Terence Wilton, who's clearly undergoing some sort of medical treatment or end-of-life care, and he's becoming a little bit senile, and Cosmo, who is nicknamed Cosmonaut by her father, is tethered to these memories of her father in a similar way to how the Doctor is looking for meaning in her lost memories. You've got these two contrasting Time Lords, like the Jean Valjean and Javert from Les Mis, and they are both defined in different ways by their past and by their memories and what those associations mean to them. And I think that the subtext becoming the text in Hereafter is a really wonderful approach to characterization. I think that the vampire stuff is really cool and interesting, and the way how they get out of this particular predicament through Cosmo's relationship with her father is really inspired and great. But then it's the character work surrounding that vampire and Time Lord lore, and the lore and the rituals of this village that the Doctor and Cosmo land at with their mayor, played by Gunnar Corthery, who has basically got a birthright right to be mayor here. And the fugitive Doctor sarcastically says that's democracy in action for you. And we get some really great fleshing out of this little society that's gathered in the shadow of this mountain full of vampires. There's some really lovely flourishes of world building and character really melding here that I've thought was really, really strong stuff from Tim Foley. Characteristically strong character work here from Tim Foley. I thought that Abby Andrews as this young girl who they encounter in the forest called Herma, I think she did a really strong performance throughout the course of the story. Is really well cast, really strong guest cast. I thought it was a really strong closer to the box set. I think that the place that it leaves the fugitive Doctor and Cosmogon as well, in terms of how they view each other, and this experience, and combined with the experience that they had in the Junkyard Loop, leaves the two characters in a really fascinating place. At time of doing this review, they haven't announced more Fugitive Doctor box sets. They've not announced any more stuff for Joe Martin, apart from the in-concept announcement of the Circuit Breaker Joe Martin fronted transmedia story that's going to be coming out next year, which will have some Big Finish stories accompanying it. So we know that this isn't the end of Joe Martin's run as the Fugitive Doctor from Big Finish, but Dead or Alive leaves it in a pretty interesting place with a few loose threads which will hopefully get expanded upon later. I just hope that it doesn't get too bogged down in emphasizing, oh, the Fugitive Doctor's lost her memory, what's she forgotten, and then it just never pays off those mysteries. I hope that there is a definitive end goal in mind, or at least something that they're heading towards, because I think as great as the Fugitive Doctor and Cosmogon's relationship is in this box set, something I'm really glad that they improved on from Most Wanted, I do wonder how much mileage there is in that. Is there a future for this range beyond Cosmogon? And if there is, what is it? I think Dead or Alive is a comparable box set to Most Wanted. I think The Legend of the Baba Yaga is the high point of these 6 stories so far, but it's still kind of trying to find its feet in Most Wanted, whereas Dead or Alive is a much more assured release. I think that the character work is pretty strong throughout. I just think that Flying Solo in the Junkyard Loop, there's a few structural and character aspects that are holding those stories back, but I liked them, I just wish I loved them. But the cast overall are really strong. We've got a duo of really promising young Big Finish writers who I really want to see what they do next. And yeah, I want to know what the future of the range is. I hope they do more, because Joe Martin is once again giving a really strong and assured performance as the Fugitive Doctor. I attest that her debut in Most Wanted earlier this year is the strongest Doctor actor debut for Big Finish since Colin Baker in The Sirens of Time, and I will plant my flag there.